like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
Deputies were sent to a trailer park in Ocala, Florida after 48-year-old Lisa Jeffrey was reported missing. Detectives spoke to Patience Burton during a well-being check and she let them into the Jeffreys' trailer home. That's where Lisa Jeffrey's body was discovered wrapped in bags in a storage compartment underneath the bed in the spare room. The victim's ex-husband, 55-year-old Beau Pete Jeffrey, is charged with first-degree murder of Lisa Jeffrey.
Winifred Burke.
And where do you live, Miss Burke?
In Van Buren, Maine.
How long have you lived in Maine?
December 11th will be 7 years.
Did you know Lisa Jeffrey?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you know her?
She was my niece.
Is he the father of Lisa's 4 children you just told us about?
No, ma'am.
All right. Now, you said you and Lisa were very close.
Yes, ma'am.
How often would you and Lisa speak?
Oh, we would speak at least once a week.
All right. Because you didn't live in the same state, correct?
No, ma'am.
All right. And how would you reach Lisa when you wanted to speak to her?
I would call her, or she would either call my phone.
Okay. Did she have a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, towards the end, when Lisa went missing, did she not have a cell phone at that time?
No, she did not have a cell phone. She told me that her cell phone about a week before had come up missing.
Okay.
And she was using Mr. Jeffrey's cell phone on a loudspeaker.
All right. And was this shortly before she went missing?
About a week, yes, ma'am.
All right. So when you wanted to speak with her, you would have to call her on the defendant's cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Would it be a private call when you would call her on the defendant's cell phone? Would it just be the two of you?
No, ma'am. It would be on speaker.
All right. And the defendant would be present during those phone calls?
As far as I knew, yes.
When is the last time you spoke with Lisa before she went missing?
Approximately a week. I'm going to say it was a week because I was going to call her for her birthday.
Okay.
And she told me that they had plans. It was going to go do something.
Okay. So it was about a week before her birthday you last acted?
Yes, so I told her to call me when she got time to call me so we could touch base, but I never heard from her.
All right. And when was her birthday?
Her birthday was November the 5th.
Now, over the next several weeks, did you continue to try and reach Lisa?
Yes, ma'am. I continued several times. I was speaking to Mr. Jeffrey. I was speaking to my sister, which lives in the same town, and her youngest daughter, Paris.
Paris, okay. So at this point, would it be fair to say the whole family was getting concerned?
Yeah. And
now,
everybody was concerned, but nobody seemed like they were doing anything, and I'm like, things aren't adding up.
all right. Now, did Lisa have a drug problem on and off during her life?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was it unusual for her to go missing for a day or two?
No, that for a day or two, but Lisa would always contact somebody in the family and be back.
So was it unusual that she had not been heard from for several weeks?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
All right. And now, did you ever talk to the defendant again after that initial call on November 6th when you kept trying to reach Lisa? Did he ever answer again?
Yes, he did several times. I really don't know how many times, but I did talk to him several times.
And what did he tell you when you would talk to him?
He told me he missed her. He wished that she was there he wasn't feeling well, to make him some stew. And I said, I wish she was too. It was a cordial. You know, at that time I'm still trying to put pieces together on where is my niece.
Did he ever sound concerned?
He never sounded concerned. And finally, I was just, somebody needs to do something. This is not my niece.
Did you speak with the defendant the day that you reported Lisa missing and actually called the police?
Yes.
Okay. And why?
I called just to verify again that my niece was not around and he had not seen or heard.
Did you ask him
And I
to call
asked
the police?
why he had not contacted the police.
And what did he say?
And he said, well, I just didn't feel it was necessary.
Okay. So you took action and called
So I
the
took
police.
action and called, yes, ma'am.
All right.
Paris Riley,
How old are you, Paris?
18,
And where do you live?
Iowa.
Are you married?
Yes,
Do you have any children?
yes,
How old?
7 months.
You related to Lisa Jeffrey?
Yes,
Okay, and how?
I'm her daughter.
You her youngest daughter? I just need you to answer out loud.
Yes,
About how old were you when you moved to Florida to live with your mom and the defendant?
I was like 12. 11, 12.
And where in Florida did you live with your mom and the defendant?
Stark, Florida.
And how long did you live with them in Stark?
I'm like 6 years.
So your mom and the defendant didn't move to Ocala until you had moved out.
Yes.
You never lived with them in Ocala?
No.
Okay. Now, when you first moved in with them, how was the relationship between your mom and the defendant, Bo Pete Jeffrey?
It seemed like it was good. She was happy with them.
Okay. And then at some point, did that relationship change?
Yes.
Okay. How so?
After he started drinking,
All right. What happened after he started drinking?
he got more abusive to her.
Abusive?
Yes.
All right. So he wasn't drinking during the beginning of the relationship when you lived with them?
No.
All right.
The evidence you are about to receive concerning evidence of other crimes allegedly committed by the defendant will be considered by you for the limited purpose of proving intent, knowledge, or absence of mistake or accident on the part of the defendant, and you shall consider it only as it relates to those issues. However, the defendant is not on trial for a crime that is not included in the indictment. You may proceed.
Did your mom have bruises sometimes after he would hit her?
Yes.
And did you say how often this physical abuse would happen?
Maybe like once every 2 weeks.
And what sort of things would cause the hitting, the physical abuse?
If something wasn't cleaned right or cooked right, stuff like that.
Now, did the defendant wear some sort of jewelry on his hands?
Yes.
What was that?
He wore rings on all of his fingers.
Did you ever see any marks from any of those rings on your mom after he hit her?
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe what ring he had that you saw a mark on your mom?
It was a horseshoe ring,
Okay.
and it was onto her arm.
And did it actually leave a mark, a horseshoe ring mark?
Yeah, you could see it onto her.
All right. And what would happen in the car sometimes?
He would just reach over and just hit her.
Did your mom ever call the police?
No.
Did she ever leave him for a long period of time?
No. And they was arguing, and he put her into a chokehold between his legs and had both of his arms around her neck.
So she was between his legs?
Yeah,
Can you
he
show
was
us?
sitting onto the couch, and my mom was on front of him onto the floor, and he was choking her.
Okay. With his hands?
One was like his arm and his hand like this,
Okay. And her head was?
in between like right here.
Okay. Did it come to the point where your mom couldn't breathe?
Yeah, she was struggling trying to get his hands off her throat.
Okay. And how long did this incident last?
A couple minutes.
Did your mom finally get able to get away?
Yeah.
And what happened after that?
They continued arguing, and my mom left.
And about how old were you when that incident happened?
Probably like 13.
And now, did your mom call the police after this incident where he choked her and she couldn't breathe?
No.
Did your mom have any family in Florida?
None of her own.
Okay. Did your mom work?
No.
Did she rely on the defendant for the necessities of life, basically?
Yes.
And how big was your mom?
She was fairly small. Maybe like 90, 100 pounds at the most.
And how was she health-wise? We talked a little bit about that.
She wasn't good health-wise.
Okay. Was there medications that she had to take regularly?
Yeah, she had to take shots weekly and medicine for it.
Did these shots make her weak?
Yes.
Did you ever see your mom hit the defendant back?
No.
Did you ever see your mom hit him first?
No.
Did you ever try to get your mom to leave the defendant?
Yes.
Now, you said you lived with your mom and the defendant for how many years?
About 5 or 6.
And when did you move out? How old were you?
About 15.
Why did you leave?
I went to go stay with my sister.
Jamila King, employed with the Sheriff's Office for approximately 7 years. At the time of this occurrence, I was in forensic unit a little over a year, so I'd have to refer to my reports, but I was new. This was my first homicide.
Okay. What do you do now with the Sheriff's Office?
Currently in the Law Enforcement Academy.
When you go into a scene to process and collect evidence and take photographs and things like that, what types of precautions do you take to make sure that you don't contaminate a scene?
Well, in cases we have to always use gloves, booties, the things that you see medical personnel wear booties, bodysuits at times.
And what's the purpose of using gloves and bodysuits and things like that?
We don't want to leave our DNA on that scene.
At some point, did you enter this camper with the detectives?
Yes.
And what was your purpose of going inside?
It was reported that there was a well-being check on Miss Lisa Jeffrey, so we went in just to survey the area and take photos on my part.
Photograph 6.
Another selection from the kitchen over to the dining area and living room sofa.
And photograph 7. What does this show?
The closer up of the living room sofa, a dining table, and some other accessories.
While you were inside, especially in this general area, did you notice anything on the shag carpet or the coffee table that was of interest?
Eventually, but not as of yet during that time.
Okay. At some point you looked at this area further?
Yes.
And what was found in this area?
Suspected may possibly vomit, but on that ceramic bowl it appeared to be suspected blood.
Later on were samples of the blood that you just mentioned, were those collected by somebody else?
They may have, I'm not sure, but the other persons that came on the scene was Medina and our trainee Truesdell.
Photograph 8, what do we see here?
That's as if you were sitting, or is you sitting on the living room sofa and facing that television.
And what is to the left? We see a sliding glass door. What is that door?
That is the entrance into the camper.
And what's to the right?
The kitchen.
So looking back at photograph 9, and again, if you kept walking straight towards into that photo, what room do you come to?
Well, you see closer of the kitchen, then there's a bathroom, and then the main bedroom.
Showing you photograph 10. What does this show?
That's walking into the kitchen further, and then there's a bathroom on that right side.
Okay. So photograph 11, does that show the entrance to the master bedroom and bathroom?
Yes.
Showing you photograph 17, does this show the paperwork you just talked about?
Yes.
Did you look inside this envelope?
More so, yes, we did.
Okay. Showing you photograph 18, what was found inside the envelope?
It says the final judgment for those divorced.
Showing you photograph 19, what does that show?
It's a continuing of a signature to confirm the divorce.
Did that document show that the date of the final dissolution of the marriage was October 17th of 2018?
Yes, it does.
Showing you photograph 21, shifting to the opposite end of the camper. What does this show?
That shows going into the spare bedroom.
So if you entered the main entrance of the camper and turned right, is this what you would see?
Yes, and then the spare bathroom.
Okay. And we see a mattress below those black curtains. What's below the mattress?
There's also bottom pull-out drawers, like storage.
Okay. Were those items beneath the storage compartment removed?
Yes, they were.
And once they were removed, what was revealed?
That's I have listed like a black car cover. That's what we seen afterward.
Had you noticed any kind of insect activity inside that camper?
Yes, there
What'd
were
you notice?
some flies that directed, when I was in that main bedroom, there was flies going throughout that brought us back to the spare bedroom.
Did you notice any kind of odor once those cabinet doors were open and those items were removed?
Yes.
What type of odor did you notice?
Somewhat of an unexplainable, but we're familiar as to what it smelled like, but it's a strong stench.
And based on your training and experience processing crime scenes, what was the odor?
Perhaps a decomposing body.
What was, once you opened the black tarp, what was inside?
There was a sleeping bag, another black bags on to the left side. I have Rural King bags, tape.
Once the bag was opened, what was done with Miss Jeffrey's body?
It was removed, placed out in sterile body bags, and placed under a covered camper.
And what was the point of putting it
A covered tent.
What was the point of putting it under a covered tent?
Privacy, further investigation needed to be done. The black bags were removed. There was cutting the plastic bags, comforter, and tape into sections. Black bags were removed to reveal what now could be identified as a camouflage sleeping bag. It was completely soaked with fluid and maggots. More Rural King bags were observed inside the sleeping bag. Saran wrap overlapped a narrow section of it. All the bags and tape were removed complete to reveal a human's decomposing body.
Can you please tell the jury your name?
Yes, it's Tiffany Michelle Nader.
What's your occupation?
I'm a senior latent print analyst there.
And how long have you been a senior latent print analyst for the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
I've been there over 15 years.
All right. What kind of training do you have in the field of fingerprint analysis?
We have approximately over 500 specialized hours in the science of fingerprints, palm prints, and footprints at times. And then I had 4 years on the job training with the Sheriff's Office where we shadow with a senior latent examiner. And we'll also receive training throughout our years being there from forensic schools, Ron Smith and Associates. We'll get training from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the FBI in different schools and things like that we will go to.
Have you had the occasion to give opinion testimony in the field of fingerprint analysis and identification?
Yes, I have.
Approximately how many times?
This would probably be approximately 118 times.
Ms. Nader, we've talked a lot about latent fingerprints. Can you tell the jury what a latent fingerprint is, what that means?
Okay. A latent fingerprint is, the word actually latent means invisible. So just because you don't see something does not necessarily mean that it's not there. So for example, you could see me touch the surface and they could create a processing technique and it may or may not appear and become visible to the human eye. Basically, to create a latent fingerprint, you have a special type of skin that grows nail to nail and all the way the base of your palm to the side of the palm, and then you have that special type of skin friction ridge detail that grows the whole base of your foot and toes. So it's lined, it's raised, it's three-dimensional, and it has pore structures to it, so that skin can actually secrete. And what it's secreting is 98% water. The other 2% could be lipids, amino acids. You can also collect oils if you touch your face. So when you touch that surface or walk on a surface barefoot, you have a potential to leave a latent fingerprint or a footprint behind on a surface. Because when they process that surface with the black powder, for example, it would adhere to that moisture that you would have secreted and have a potential to leave something behind at a scene.
2 latent lift cards that were done by Jamila King from a black trash bag, and it's been entered in as state 16 already. Have you had a chance to examine those 2 latent lifts by Jamila King from 2 different trash bags?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Were any of those of value?
I determined both of those to be of value.
Okay. Did you compare those 2 fingerprints that were of value with any known prints?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Whose known prints did you compare those with?
The known standards I would have taken them with would be last name Jeffries, first name Bo Peep, and then last name Bruton, first name Patience.
Okay. Patience Burton and the defendant Bo Peep Jeffrey. All right.
Yes.
Did you identify either of those 2 latent fingerprints to the defendant Bo Peep Jeffrey or Patience Burton?
No, I did not.
All right. And I also want to talk about 2 latent lift cards. 4 latent lift cards from Jamila King that were from another trash bag that have been entered in as State's Exhibit 17. Did you have a chance to examine those 4 latent lift cards done by Jamila King?
Yes, I did.
And were any of those of value?
Yes, they were.
Okay, how many were of value?
Could I refer to my report, Your Honor? Thank you. Out of the ones that Jamila lifted that I would have received 4, I determined 1 to be of no value, and the other 3 I determined to be of value out of the 4 lifted by Jamila.
Did you compare the 3 latent fingerprints of value with any known prints?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and whose known prints did you compare the 3 latents of value with?
Again, last name Jeffrey, first name Bo Peep, and then last name Bruton, first name Patience. I would have compared the known standards.
Did you compare those prints of value to Lisa Jeffrey as well?
I did.
Okay. Were you able to identify any of those 3 latent prints of value to Lisa Jeffrey, Bo Peep Jeffrey, or Patience Burton?
No, it was not.
My name is Susan. I'm a store manager at Rural King.
What's your last name?
Skiba,
Okay. You're a store manager at Rural King. Which Rural King?
in Ocala, off of 27th.
And how long have you worked for Rural King?
Just over 4 years.
Does the surveillance system record footage on some kind of a hard drive or device within the store?
On the old system, yes. On the new system, I believe it's cloud-based.
Okay. And on the system that was in place back in December of 2018, would it have recorded the surveillance footage in the store or on the cloud?
It's a hard drive that's still in the store.
And as manager or assistant manager of the store, did you have access to that footage?
Yes.
Okay, so if someone came into Rural King and said, hey, I need this date and this time, can you pull this footage for me? You can do that.
Yes.
What was the date and time on that receipt?
November 7th, 2018 at 9:10 a.m.
And you said that there were 42-gallon trash bags purchased
Yes.
by cash?
Yes.
How much did they cost?
$8.99 plus tax. The total is $10.38.
And based on the receipt, can you tell who the cashier was that did that transaction?
Yes.
How do you know?
Her login is J. Hitchka, which is my CSA Jamie.
Okay, and is that noted on the receipt itself? Her initials someplace?
Not initialed, no. It just has her name on the top of it.
Okay, I see. Now, knowing the date and time of the receipt in question, did you also go back and locate the surveillance footage associated with that purchase?
Yes.
Did you provide that to the deputy as well?
Yes.
Does the date and time stamp on the video correspond with the date and time on the receipt of the transaction?
Yes.
Detective John Lightle.
Where do you work?
I work with the Marion County Sheriff's Office.
What do you do for the Marion County Sheriff's Office?
I'm currently a robbery homicide detective.
How long have you been working for the Sheriff's Office?
I started in 2011, February of 2011.
How long have you been a major crimes detective?
Since about 5 years, a little over 5 years.
About how long was that first interview?
Oh boy. It was probably less than an hour.
Were there also some periods of downtime where you and Lieutenant McQuaid would leave the room?
Yes.
And nothing was happening?
Correct.
At any point prior to this first interview, or during this first interview, did you inform the defendant that you had located Miss Jeffrey's body in her camper, in his camper?
No, during the initial interview, we wanted to get as much information as possible we had not mentioned the fact that we had found his wife deceased at that point.
And is that a common investigative technique to not reveal all the information you know about a case?
Correct,
Why?
because oftentimes, in my experience, when we're doing an interview like that, we want to get a feel, we want to read the person, we want to do like a cold read and find out what, if when you're talking to somebody, you can get a feeling from them that there might be something more to the story. It's also an opportunity to catch someone in a lie. Oftentimes people will lie if they think that you're not paying attention or you're not aware of certain facts. So we'll often use that approach, that technique, to try to, again, get a cold read and kind of feel, what this person's all about.
At some point during this initial interview, the defendant indicated that he wasn't feeling well.
Yes.
And what happened?
At some point during the interview, he began vomiting and was lethargic and asked to go to the hospital.
And what did you do in light of that?
We took him to a hospital.
The last month or so, have you been living with anybody else at your trailer? You've been living alone?
Now she comes over and tends to me.
You talking about patients?
Patients, yeah.
Okay. So she has like key to your house?
Mm-hmm.
She has a key to your house?
No.
She does not have a key to your house? Does she have any belongings there?
I don't think. She don't live when we live with me. We just see one another.
Okay. Are you guys in a dating relationship?
No, she's my cousin.
Okay. You guys have not been sexual in the past? Okay. Never had sexual intercourse or fooled around with her or anything like that?
Not with her.
Okay. So patients will be coming over to tend for you, make sure that you're okay and you have everything that you need.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about where have you been the last week or so?
Traveling.
Okay. We're in Ocala for the last week. Is that accurate? Okay. And you actually came up here yesterday. Is that accurate? Okay. I misunderstood you. So so that makes sense. So when's the last time you haven't been in contact with is it your wife or your ex-wife, Lisa?
Lisa?
Yeah.
Ex-wife.
Okay. And when was the last time you've been in contact with her? Over a phone or in person?
Yeah. Friday. Friday.
Okay. This last Friday?
Yeah, the other day Friday.
Okay. Tell me about that.
So I don't live no life. I go to work, come home, take care of myself, and go back out.
Okay. When you were in contact with her Friday, what happened?
Patience?
No, I'm talking about Lisa.
Oh, I ain't talked to her in a long time, about a month.
Okay. That's the November 5th you're talking about? Okay.
You take me to the hospital or something?
Do you need to go to a hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have some kind of medical problem, or what's going on with you? Are you just hungover, or what's the deal?
I'm just tired.
Okay. We can, if you're asking to go to the hospital, maybe we can facilitate that for you, okay?
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's get this packaged up here so you can watch me do it.
Okay.
And this is gonna go in this bag. And that's gonna go into the case, okay? Just give me 1 second, Mr. Jeffrey. I'll let the Putnam officers here know that you're requesting to go to the hospital, and we'll be right back with you, okay?
We saw the defendant was taken away from the interview room. He was taken to Putnam Hospital.
Yes.
Okay, what happened when you arrived there?
We got there in the emergency room and sort of waited for the medical staff to clear out, or for there to be an opening, and then we reapproached him for to continue that interview.
Was that interview at the hospital recorded in some way?
Yes.
Okay, how?
I have a little audio recorder that I carry with me to do audio recorded interviews.
This is Detective Lightle with the Marion County Sheriff's Office. We're with Lieutenant McQuaig, Marion County Sheriff's Office, reference case number 180-32090. We're at the Putnam County Putnam Community Medical Center. It is December 4th, 12:30 in the p.m. We're here at the request of Mr. Bo Jeffrey to go to the hospital, and we're going to continue talking to him at this time.
Obviously, you are in a state right now
where you're barely able to function because of your anxiety. Your blood pressure is high, and I can see that it's weighing on you. What happened? And this case is only going to move forward, and we want to make sure that I see your perspective, man to man, eye to eye, okay? This story about her walking off might not be 100% true, okay? And I'm serious, just man to man. When this thing goes forward, we have to be able to see things from your perspective, okay? We've talked to people that have told us all about Lisa and her problems, okay? She had some problems, okay? We know that she had some problems. And there are two sides to every story, okay? But this story about her walking off, we're beyond that.
That woman's crazy.
Huh?
She's crazy.
Okay, well tell us what really happened.
We had an argument that night, and then she went up front to the bedroom.
Okay.
And walked away.
But she didn't walk away. Pete, we've been in the house. We've seen everything in the house. Okay, we know that she didn't walk away.
Okay.
We're here to hear your side of the story.
I know, sir.
Okay.
You just said what happened.
No, we need you to tell us and give us the details.
We come back, it was her birthday.
Okay.
We went over there to little again and down the karaoke and stuff.
Okay.
She brought us home. She spits out. Goes up on the commode. And she was dead.
She threw up on the commode?
She on the commode.
Okay.
And she had this fist and shit all over herself.
Okay.
And she just crazy, so that's what happened.
Okay. Was this a physical altercation? Tell us about that.
There wasn't no altercation to her.
Okay. How did she get hurt? How did she get hurt?
She sat on the commode, and that's where she died.
Okay. Which toilet are we talking about? The one by your room?
Bedroom.
She died on the commode? Okay, and what happened next?
I just didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So she died up there.
Okay. What'd you do with the body?
I don't know, sir.
Who were you with? Who was with her? Who can we talk to understand what happened?
I was at Uncle Joe's today, but there was nobody home.
No. Who were you with when it happened? Who was with you when you were with Lisa?
Nobody.
You were by yourself with her? And she died on the commode. Okay. What happened to her body?
It's in the front bedroom with my trailer.
Okay. And did anybody help you move it?
No, nobody even knows.
Okay. Yeah, you're shivering, man. Need a blanket.
Cold, sir.
Mm-hmm. Come on, you're doing good, man.
That's it.
Okay. So, did you package her up like that? I mean, help us understand. You did it all by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you told anybody else about this? Okay. Has this been weighing on your mind?
Yes, I'm just dying, sir.
When did this happen?
On her birthday.
Okay.
November the 5th.
November the 5th? Okay. What, did you put anything on her body? What did you put on her body?
I put a sleeping bag on.
Okay. What color was the sleeping bag?
The brown tan, what the color that door.
Okay. So like a wood color or something? Okay.
Right. Okay.
And
And did you tell me how she got under the bed? How did you get under the bed?
Then put her underneath there. I'll put her underneath there.
Okay. Nobody helped you with that?
No, sir.
Patients didn't help you?
No.
Patients didn't help you?
No, patients don't know.
She didn't what?
She don't know.
She don't know about it. You haven't told her?
I don't know about it.
Okay. So let me get this straight. I'm going to repeat back to me what you're telling me, and I want you to tell me if I'm incorrect.
Okay.
You guys go out to a bar on her birthday. Was it your nephew?
Yeah, Little Ben.
What's his name?
Little Ben.
Little Ben. What's his real name?
Little Ben.
Ben, what's his last name?
Collins.
Ben Collins takes you from the bar to the house.
Yeah.
You guys get there, and you describe her as kind of being, her attitude being kind of crazy. You guys get into a physical altercation. You punch her approximately 3 to 4 times.
Yeah.
Was it with your empty hand or with something else?
Just my hand.
Okay. And during this altercation, I guess, do things de-escalate at that point, or what? Does she go away? Does she stay there?
She went to back there like she normally does.
Okay, so she went to bed, and then you describe her waking up in the morning and saying, "I'm never going to drink again."
She went to her front bathroom.
And then she went to use the bathroom, and then you found her on the toilet deceased.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you took her body from the toilet, and you wrapped it in that blanket, and you put her where you found her. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
What were you planning on doing with her body?
I didn't know, sir, because it all just happened on my hand.
So you didn't have a plan? What's with the boxing gloves? Tell me about the boxing gloves.
So I feel like you've been half 50% forthcoming. I mean, because be perfectly honest with you, her body is not. She just went through an autopsy. We've had her body since yesterday. She went through an autopsy this morning. She is bruised. She is one bruise from the tip of her head to the bottom of her feet for some type of violent struggle. So she's got broken ribs. Okay. She's got a laceration behind her ear, or almost with her ear almost taken off. So what you're telling us, and I see you're minimizing that to quite a great deal.
And we understand.
But you're the only person that's been with her, okay?
And 99% of the time, people tell us things that is not 100% true because they're embarrassed about some things. Maybe this isn't characteristic for you, okay? No. We believe this was a heated argument, and that she didn't get up off that floor and go to bed that night.
Thank you.
It's an act of passion. That's what they call it. You know, you're acting out of just not inside your own head. You're acting out of like anger and just it happens. It happens all the time to people. It's what's in people. Okay, so what I'm saying is you're telling us that she went to bed. We know it's not true. We know she didn't survive or this attack, this struggle that you guys were in. Right. She's got broken ribs. She's got laceration. She's bruised up and down the body, and that's what our medical examiner is going to come forth and say. So help us to understand how come that happened. How come you guys got into that struggle like that? I mean, because this right here doesn't work for us. We work on evidence. We work on things that are, you know what I'm saying? So your evidence, while there are some things that are accurate with what you're telling us, there are other things that are not accurate. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so,
no, all right.
Okay.
Carolina Denito. The last name is Venito.
Where do you work?
I work at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Orlando Regional Operations Center.
What do you do for FDLE?
I am a crime laboratory analyst in the biology DNA section.
What do you do on a daily basis?
I examine items of evidence for the presence of biological fluids, such as blood, semen, and saliva, and I perform DNA testing on said items.
How long have you been doing that job for FDLE?
Since January of 2014.
Can you explain to the jury, in layman's terms, briefly, what DNA is?
Yeah, so DNA is an acronym that stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's one of the largest molecules in the body, and it is what tells what makes you who you are. It is inherited. You get half your DNA from your mom, half your DNA from your dad, and no two individuals have to share the same DNA.
And what method of DNA testing does your lab use?
We do STR DNA testing. STR stands for short tandem repeat, and there are small regions of DNA that repeat themselves a number of times. The areas that we look at are not known to code for anything or do anything, but by looking at the amount of times that these sections repeat at very different locations, we're able to determine what your DNA profile is.
Were you able, when you did the DNA analysis on the victim's stain card, were you able to develop a DNA profile from that item?
I obtained a mixed DNA profile from that item, which in this case, because it is a standard and is known to be from one individual, is unexpected typing results, so it cannot be used as a standard.
Okay, and you said a mixed profile. What does that mean?
So once I tested the item, I obtained results that are consistent with coming from more than one individual.
Okay, and that shouldn't happen when you have a standard taken from one person at an autopsy, right?
No, a standard, like I said, should be a complete single source DNA profile for that one person because it's what identifies it as their own DNA profile.
And because that item somehow had mixed DNA in it, were you able to use that item at all for any additional analysis?
No, I couldn't. The purpose of a standard is to make comparisons of unknown items of evidence to that one known sample. And because this is not a known sample from one individual, I cannot use it for any comparisons.
And is that unheard of, that you'll sometimes get what's supposed to be a standard, but it actually has a mixed DNA profile on it such that you can't use it?
It's not common, but it happens.
Okay. In a situation where you cannot use the DNA standard taken from a victim, are there any other avenues that you can use to obtain DNA results and do an analysis?
Yes, so there is the possibility of using a secondary standard, which is, for example, like a toothbrush that only one person uses. We would expect to obtain DNA that is from that person, from that item. Or in some cases, we can also use the DNA profile from one of the individual's parents or children.
And why can you use the DNA from a parent or child of the victim in order to do your analysis?
Because we know that DNA is inherited and you get half of your DNA from your mom and half of your DNA from your dad, same way as you pass on to your child half of their DNA, we can make comparisons between samples from parents and children because of that relationship of half of. At every location that we test, I told you we get numbers, right? So those numbers are representative of what that person is at that location. Well, at each location, you're gonna get two numbers. One of those numbers is gonna come from mom, one of those numbers is gonna come from dad, the number of repeats that are there. So half of the information that we obtain for a standard is consistent with a parent or a child. That's a known thing.
So if you get the DNA from the parent of the victim, the mother of the victim, for instance, you could take that information and then compare it to unknown samples found at a crime scene?
Yes.
And determine if the person who left the DNA at the crime scene was a biological child of the known sample you used?
Yes, we can.
I understand. Did you analyze that swab taken from pointer A at the coffee table for the presence of DNA?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to develop any kind of a DNA profile from that swab?
I did. The complete DNA profile consistent with a female individual was obtained from that item.
Okay. Did you compare the complete DNA profile from that item to the known DNA profile of the victim's mother?
Yes, I did.
What were your results?
The DNA profile from that item was compared to that of the alleged parent, and Jesse O'Rourke, who's the alleged parent, cannot be excluded as the biological parent from that item.
Did you perform any kind of a statistical analysis? You said she couldn't be excluded. Did you perform a statistical analysis to show the likelihood that the person who left that DNA standard on the coffee table was the biological child of Jesse O'Rourke?
Yes, the observed DNA profile of the alleged parent and child obtained from that item is approximately 230 million times more likely to occur if the individuals are parent and child, as opposed to being unrelated. And the probability that a random individual would be excluded as being the biological parent is greater than 99.99%.
Did you analyze that item for the presence of DNA?
I did.
And were you able to develop any kind of DNA profile from it?
A complete DNA profile that is consistent with the same female as the one obtained from item 2 was obtained from item 3 as well.
Okay. Did you again compare the DNA profile from the swab taken from that dresser to the known DNA profile of Jessie O'Rourke, the victim's mother?
Yes, I did.
And what were your results?
The DNA profile that was obtained for that item was compared to the alleged parent, and Jessie O'Rourke, who's the alleged parent, cannot be excluded as being the biological parent of the sample obtained from item 3.
Did you again perform the same statistical analysis you just described?
I did.
And what were your results?
The observed DNA profile of the alleged parent and the alleged child are approximately 230 million times more likely to occur if the individuals are parent and child versus unrelated, and the probability that a random individual would be excluded as being the biological parent is greater than 99.99%.
So it's over 230 million times more likely that the person who left the DNA swab on the dresser was the biological child of Jessie O'Rourke than some unknown, unrelated person in the world.
Yes. Yes, the same complete DNA profile consistent with a female individual was obtained from that item.
Did you compare that DNA profile from the swab that we see in the picture to the known DNA profile of Jessie O'Rourke, the victim's mother?
I did. It was compared with that of the alleged parent. Jessie O'Rourke, who is the alleged parent, cannot be excluded as being the biological parent of the results obtained from item 4.
Were there several blood swabs in that package that you analyzed?
Yes, it contained 3 stains which were labeled B, C, and E.
Did you analyze all of the swabs?
I did not. I only analyzed stain B.
And why did you not analyze the other ones?
Because the sample was from such a small area that it was reasonable to believe that all of the stains were originated from the same source.
Okay. When you analyzed the swab from the carpet in front of the entertainment center at the crime scene, did you obtain a DNA profile from that swab?
I did. The same complete DNA profile consistent with the female individual from the previous items was obtained from stain B.
My name is Tera Jones, T-E-R-A, last name J-O-N-E-S.
What is your current occupation?
I'm an assistant medical examiner in the medical examiner's office in Leesburg.
And how long have you been employed there?
Since 2018.
Okay. And what are your duties?
We do autopsies and we examine bodies as well as do chart reviews to determine cause and manner of death.
Where did you work before the District 5 and 24 medical examiner's office?
I worked in Canada. I spent about 7 years working there in the Calgary medical examiner's office.
Were you doing the same thing that you're doing now?
Yes.
Determine cause and manner of death?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you work there?
I worked there for 7 years.
All right. And where did you work before that?
Before that, I did a brief stint in Colorado working for a coroner and did autopsies to determine cause of death, and then the coroner would determine the manner of death.
Right. So about how many years have you been doing this type of work, determining cause and manner of death?
Since 2006.
Are you a medical doctor?
Yes.
Can you describe your educational background for the jury?
4 years were spent at Colorado State University. I graduated with a Bachelor in Science in Biology and an emphasis in Anatomy. The next 4 years were spent in medical school in Chicago, and I have my medical doctorate. The following 4 years were a residency program in anatomic and clinical pathology, and that was at Rush University in Chicago. And I'm board certified in anatomic and clinical pathology. The next year was a subspecialty training year in the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office in Chicago, and that's where I practiced forensic pathology. I'm also board certified in forensic pathology.
Approximately how many autopsies have you performed in your career?
I stopped counting at 2,500, and that was in 2011.
Can you first tell the jury what is pathology?
Pathology is the study of diseases in the body.
What is forensic pathology?
It's a subspecialty of pathology where we do examinations to determine cause and manner of death.
And what's an autopsy?
An autopsy is a detailed examination of the body. It involves many different facets. It can involve first an external examination of the body. X-rays can be done. Various different tissues can be obtained to be sent for toxicologic analysis to look for any poisons or toxins present in the body. Various different photos are taken during the course of an autopsy. And then also, there's what everybody expects is we look at the inside of the body, at the organs, and the diseases and processes and injuries that are present there.
And all that would help you determine the cause and manner of death of someone?
Yes.
What causes a bruise?
So a bruise is what happens when you have blunt force trauma exerted onto a body surface and it crushes the small vessels underneath the skin and the soft tissues.
Okay. And what is blunt force trauma?
Anything that is not sharp and not penetrating. So I think we've all bumped ourselves, and that would be blunt force trauma.
Right. And what causes a laceration?
A laceration occurs when you have some sort of blunt force trauma that also tears the skin, and which we oftentimes call a cut, in lay terms.
If you can orient the jury as to which way the head is in this picture and explain what your findings were.
Okay, so her nose is up towards this area. This is the back portion of her head, and the scalp has been reflected down. This is the muscle that we can all see when we clench our jaws and we're chewing gum. That's your temporalis muscle. And you should see that the tissue should be nice and tan, just like this. However, we can see that there's dark discoloration on the right temporal scalp, as well as extending over towards the frontal portion of the forehead area. You can also see the dark discoloration on the back right side of the head where those other lacerations were.
And what are those?
Those are all
injuries?
bruises.
Okay, all right. Did you also find subgaleal hemorrhages?
Yes, that's actually the injury that's associated with this tissue that overlies the muscle. That's the galea.
And that's the one that you just highlighted right there?
It is.
All right, and what causes a subgaleal hemorrhage?
These are all due to crushing of the vessels in the area.
From blunt force trauma?
From the blunt force trauma.
All right. I'm going to show you photograph number 9. If you can orient the jury and tell us what this shows us.
Okay, so the head is toward the left and the feet are towards the right of the picture. And the hemorrhage that we were talking about in the left upper chest, you can see that there is that dark discoloration on this upper chest area. There's dark discoloration on the skin on the right side of the neck. And then this area is the right side of the chest where you can see a lot of the hemorrhage. Once again, we're expecting to see this nice tan pink color. Now instead we have this red maroon discoloration from hemorrhage.
And this is the area you're talking about that when you did the external examination, you didn't know that there was that much damage until you opened her up and saw that.
Yes.
Would a bruise on the inside of the arm, like Miss Jeffrey had, be common from a fall?
No.
Why not?
Generally, it's kind of those areas that are over bony prominences that are bruised when you fall.
Like knees, elbows?
Knees, elbows.
All right. Now, are the bruises on the back of Lisa's hands consistent with self-defense?
Yes.
Okay, and why is that?
They're bruises that we see when somebody is trying to ward off blows. Okay. So that's where we have the injuries on the back of her hands.
And she had that on both of her hands, bruises on the back. Okay. All right, I want to move on and talk about the bruises on Lisa's left hip, leg, and foot. Were there bruises in all of those areas?
Yes.
Right. Start with photograph number 18. If you can, again, orient the jury and tell us what bruise we see there.
So her head is towards the right, her feet are going to be towards the left. And you can see that there's some dark discoloration here. I think it was actually a little bit better in one of the previous hand pictures, but there was that dark discoloration there.
And then photograph number 19, if we can talk about the left leg.
So she does have some bruising on the left knee, but she also has some on the ankle area as well.
Again, would the ankle area be consistent with the fall?
No.
All right. Now, based on your internal and external examination of Lisa Jeffrey's body, were you able to determine a cause and manner of death?
Yes.
All right. And what was the cause of death?
She died as a result of multiple blunt force injuries.
All right. And how do multiple blunt force injuries cause someone to die?
So the reason we have all those pictures is not just to make anybody upset, but I think that you guys can all appreciate that there is a lot of hemorrhage. And this is a small woman who has about maybe 2 liters of soda amount of blood in her body. And you can see that there's so much hemorrhage that's present throughout her tissues that is not getting to her that was no longer getting to her vital organs. She probably went into hemorrhagic shock.
What's hemorrhagic shock?
So that's when the body doesn't have enough blood to go to the vital organs and provide oxygen to the vital organs. It compensates as well as it can, and until the body can't compensate anymore and the person passes away.
Can you say how long it would take the blunt force trauma injuries to cause her death?
Well, for this case, certainly there were all of those blunt force injuries. One other issue is she did have the injuries to her head. I can't say how much of a concussive force she had to her brain. So that also is a contributing factor, but it's also due to blunt trauma. So it's kind of covered under the blunt force injuries. So I can't say for sure how long it took.
Is it possible that Lisa could have lingered for some time before she died?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that Lisa Jeffrey sustained blunt force trauma to most portions of her body or multiple areas of her body?
Yes.
Okay. And what was Lisa Jeffrey's manner of death?
Homicide.
State of Florida versus Bo Pete Jeffrey, case number 2018 CF 4670. Verdict is to count 1. We, the jury, find as follows. As to the defendant in this case, the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated this 15th day of July 2021, signed foreperson.
All right, we're a jury of your peers having found you guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. The court also finds you guilty. I am adjudicating you guilty. I'm ordering that you serve a sentence of life imprisonment with the Department of Corrections. I am going to order payment of a $10,000 fine plus court cost, $100 cost of prosecution, $100 for the services of your attorney as well. I am also going to appoint counsel to represent you for purposes of that appeal in the event that you wish to appeal. And Mr. Wise, you'll prepare the appeal packet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did you understand the sentence here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have any questions for me?
No, sir.
All right.